go ahead and get started here. Thank you for joining the Hidden Gems webinar. My name is Lauren. I work for iorad. I'm the Director of Education and Product. Arlen also works for iorad. She is head of the Education and Ambassador program. And so she will be kind of manning the chat for me over there. If you have any questions. For now, let's get started, and we're going to do something a little bit different this webinar. So in the, so we can click next. In the chat box, go ahead and write down the phonetic pronunciation of how you would pronounce our company name. And also, if you wouldn't mind kind of posting in the chat where you're from, because I think that affects how people pronounce it. Cleveland, close to me. I'm south of Canton. Nice name, Lauren. From Lauren. Oh, that's your name. Okay, gotcha. I was like, that's cool. Awesome.
I like how Sharon does iorad. That's kind of interesting. Oh, so did Jared.
A couple people from Ohio joining. Welcome. That's where I'm from and located. Arlen is in Arizona. All right, so I saw a lot of you commenting. So it's iorad.
I like how Allison used the O like an o'clock.
Yep. Alrighty, so we're gonna go ahead and get started now that we had some fun. If you wouldn't mind kind of placing your questions in the chat, that way at the end when we have a few minutes, we'll kind of go back and answer those questions. And if we don't get to all the questions, we'll answer those when we send out the recording. We'll send out the chat and questions and answers. All right. So today's topics, we are talking about capture gems, action tools and navigation gems, and editing gems. So the first step, we'll start with capture gems, manual capture. This is a feature that we have in our extension, and you can kind of use this two different ways. Once you go up and click on our extension, you're going to right click and you'll see this manual capture that is grayed out currently. But when you are active during capture, you will see it as black and actionable or active during capture. So what you'll want to do is start your capture. Then, like I said, right click on the extension, and then you can click that manual capture button. So how that works is maybe say you have like a hover menu. If you wanted to capture a hover menu without clicking it because it's going to open or you know, it's a button, you just want to take a picture of that hover menu, you can just right click on the extension and click manual capture. That's going to take a screenshot of your screen without you accidentally clicking a button. The other scenario would be with a PowerPoint slide, like I'm showing you now, or an image or screenshot, something like that. So if you wanted to capture a slide, you can do the same type of process. You can start your capture, navigate to that Google slide or that image, right click on the extension, and then click manual capture. And it's going to capture this slide that you see here. Now you'll also notice that with this slide, you'll see there's a black background on either side of this slide. If you capture it as you see it, you're going to also see those black areas shown in your tutorial. So you might not want that to show. So what I would suggest is resizing your slide as I'm doing right now. Hopefully you can see that. So now you're not seeing that extra black on the sides of the image. like it said, you'll still just right click and click manual capture, and it will capture it without that black on the sides. Okay. The other neat thing we have here is our shortcut option. So if you click on the extension, but this time left click, so you'll left click and then you'll click on your profile image. On the profile image, once you click on the profile image, you'll see shortcuts. So you have your capture and pause option, and you have the done option. I have a Mac, so you're seeing Mac shortcuts here. But if you had a Windows or PC, you'll have those Windows shortcut options there. Another neat thing about this is you can actually click on these shortcuts and then set your own combos. So if you don't like, in my case, option P, I could change it to anything I wanted here that I could remember to use to start and stop capture. So for those of you that love your shortcuts and use them for everything, you can also use it to start and stop your iorad captures. And then the last thing here in this extension settings menu is the hide highlight capture box. You'll notice here it says capture highlight box, and in mine shows as on. So I'll show you kind of what that looks like here. I'm just going to start a quick capture. Oops. And click capture and start. All right. So now as I hover over these things, you have to look a little closely here because that blue background makes it hard to see, but you'll see that gray outline as I hover over these things. So we automatically have this feature on by default for new creators, but you can turn it off. And the reason why you might turn it off is, one, if you use our info tool and you make it a transparent step, you're going to see this gray outline because it's going to be captured in the screenshot. Secondly, if you're utilizing our quiz mode, the quiz mode will make all of your steps highlight boxes transparent, and then your little gray box here is going to give it away for your learners, so it will be less of a quiz. So that's another reason you would want to turn it off. And then the third reason would be if you needed to move the highlight box somewhere else. So maybe I initially clicked here and it captured that box, but I want to move the marker somewhere else. That gray box is going to show and give it away that I moved the box. It is important to note that if you don't turn the highlight option off prior to capture, it's going to be in all your screenshots that you've already captured. The screenshot has been taken, and so we can't go back and redo the screenshot. You would need to recapture everything that you wanted to remove that box for. So I'm just going to go ahead and toggle that off, so it's not going to show in my captures. Alrighty, so that is the capture gems, action tools, and nav gems.
I am going to ask you a question, Lauren. Do you want to answer questions about each part as you go through it, or do you want to wait for the end?
I'll wait till the end.
Okay, I wrote down the questions. Got it.
All right, and I actually reorganized this, but we're going to go out of order since it didn't update on this screen. So first up, we're going to jump to quick navigation. I'm going to hop over to my iorad tab here, and I'm going to go into the editor. And once you come into the editor, you'll see this quick navigation. So you can just click on the step, and then you can pick and choose which step you want to preview. So in this case, let's say I'm going to click on step 3, and I want to edit step 3. So this can be a really handy and quick way to just navigate to the step that you want to capture rather than using the left and right arrows. So the next one we're looking at is our type tool here, and we're going to talk about the placeholder and validation options. With the type tool, when you land here, you're going to see this box that says leave blank or enter answer here. If you leave it blank, when your learners, when the learners see your player on this type step, it will just say type here. If you share your tutorial in watch mode, the text will populate with example text. So if you wanted it to be a little more customized, you can just double click in this area and then you can type in, maybe you'll type in label name. That's just a general guidance instruction. And then I can go to this and to preview the tutorial here. Like this. And now let's just go to
The first step.
3. And you'll see in gray placeholder text, the label name, just as I type it. Now, the learner could type anything here to advance the player forward, but it's just giving them some instructional guidance of what they should be typing there. Alternatively, if you wanted it to be more scenario-based,
Zoom lag.
I was doing this earlier when we were on Zoom. Okay. Alternatively, if you double click in here, I can just type in demo. So in this, the reason why I might do that is on my next step, you'll see the word demo. And that way they feel more like, okay, you know, I just typed in demo and then the next step, oh, there's demo. Even though of course they didn't do that, it feels more like a simulation to them. So if you wanted to, maybe you're doing account numbers or names, things of that nature, you can validate that field to make sure they're typing in the word demo in this case. And you can even make it case sensitive. So you can check the box match case. And in that case, they would have to type in demo with a capital D in order to advance to the next step. Right. Oops. The next one would be our shortcut functions. This will automatically happen for you during capture if you're using shortcuts, but maybe you realize after the fact that you wanted to utilize a shortcut in this tutorial. So what happens is, I'm going to get rid of demo here. Whenever you double click in there, and then we'll just say, I'm going to just do Command V for pasting. When I just press those buttons, Command V, it automatically checked the box shortcut and it filled in the keys in the text field. I could also do like Command C and any type of shortcut that you wanted to do there. You'll also probably want to adjust this text over here to say, you know, press shortcut Command plus C. But if you do that automatically during capture, iorad automatically pulls in those keys and types in that text for you. So that's another reason you would probably want to do it during capture, but you can always do it manually after the fact as well. Okay. The next one we're going to look at is our info tool. So I'm just going to click up here and go down to step 6 with the info tool. The info tool can be used in so many different ways. As a general statement, the info tool is to provide information. So you're not clicking, you're not typing, you're not doing any action here. This is used just so that you have a way to say, I'm going to tell my learner about why they're going to do this task or what's on the screen, what they might need to know, just like little FYI type of information. And so we automatically default it to auto advance. You can, of course, if you choose to not auto advance, you'll just deselect it there. But if you have the auto advance deselected, then it will come up with a next button in the player view, and then the learner will have to click next to continue on to the next step. Transparent. In this case, for this tutorial, I have, here's where you'll find promotional emails. So I am highlighting something specific on the screen. So I wouldn't necessarily want to make it transparent, but maybe if I'm just highlighting an overall page, like here's your inbox, and this is where you're going to, you know, read all your emails. I don't necessarily want to point out some element on the screen. I could use that transparent option for that type of scenario. Next up is our drag and drop. So I'm just going to click up here and jump down to drag and drop. This is one that can be a little tricky to understand how it works and when to use it. Oftentimes I'll see the confusion between select text and drag and drop. Select text is best just used for selecting text and items of that nature. Drag and drop is more where you're going to click on something and then drag it down. Sometimes in Excel, they might, the line is a little blurry there if you're selecting cells. In some cases, then you might use drag and drop for that. But what happens is you'll have a drag box here, and then you'll have a drop box there. And so on the drag and drop tool, you'll just place the drag and the drop. Again, if you're doing this during capture, it should populate there. But again, sometimes it's a little hard for iorad to detect which one, select text or drag and drop. So you might have to, work with this one a little bit manually. So I'm going to go into the player here and show you what that looks like. Maybe. All right.
The first.
All right. So here's our drag and drop step. I can just click on the drag and it shows you where to drop it onto our starred label. So that is how drag and drop works. And then the last one is our scroll feature. With the scroll feature, this is another one that's a little tricky because you have to kind of think through what you want your learners to see. Is it more about the scroll action itself, or is it about what they're scrolling to? So if you want it to be something where you're telling them to just scroll down to a certain spot, but in between the scrolling pieces, you don't care that they see it in the tutorial, then you might just write scroll to this, scroll down until you see this piece of information. But if you want them to see as they scroll, there's pieces along the way that you want them to feel, the stimulation of the scroll, then that's where this tutorial that I'll show you kind of comes in. So I'm going to click start and you'll see this scroll on the side. So the learner will scroll and it will simulate that scrolling process. So I'll go a little slower so you can see that. So I was just scrolling through these designs and they could see as you scrolled through. So in order to achieve that effect, what you'll need to do is either use the manual capture option or click in this case, this white spot here as you scroll down the page. And the places that you want to click are where you want the screen capture to grab it. So, okay, I like this. I'm going to click. I'm going to scroll a little bit again. I'm going to click again. And then once you go into the editor, you're just going to change that click where you clicked to a scroll. And that's all I did was I clicked through this during capture. And then in the editor, I changed the click action to a scroll action. And that's how I made that tutorial. Anything to add there, Arlen? Nope. Okay. And then the last one would be editing gems. So with our masking options here under mask content, we have our mask pick a color. We've always had our blur, pixelate, and whiteout, which whiteout has been super handy. But now we have pick a color. So when I'm going to just click change here. You may or may not see pick a color depending on if you've used it before. But once you click on pick a color, you can then go onto your screen and pick a color on the screen. And it's like an eyedropper. So let's say I want to mask inbox over here that's got that orangey red background. I can then click and pick that color. Notice it changes over here. And then I can click and drag, and it's just going to make that disappear. I'll just click yes, this is permanent. It is permanent. So you would, if you messed up, you would need to recapture that screen. And it's also going to detect that area on other steps as well. So I can go ahead and click mask all, and it's going to get rid of inbox on every step that it applies. The next one would be this overlay option. With the overlay option, you can adjust your overlay color and your overlay opacity. Mine is a little bit more pronounced just so that you can see it a little better. But the overlay is really used for screens that have a lot going on and your learner might get lost on what's going, where they need to click. So you can kind of, add that overlay color and really focus in on, for your learner that they need to click in this highlight box. You also have the option to hide that on transparent info steps, and you can apply it to all steps, so you don't have to apply it to each step individually. Okay. And then the last one would be our import tutorial feature. Under advanced, you'll see import tutorial. This feature is can come in handy for scenarios such as if you have a tricky to capture screen, maybe you've already set up and captured the screen for another tutorial. So you can actually just import that previous tutorial and then delete out all the other steps that you don't need, that you didn't need, and just keep that one screen that was harder to capture. Another scenario might be maybe you'll have an intro slide with instructions that you want to be consistent across all your training. You can pull that slide in as a tutorial, and then that way you don't have to recapture it every time. It is important to note that this import tutorial feature only works from extension tutorial to extension tutorial. So if you've captured this tutorial with the extension and you want to import another tutorial that was captured with the extension, that's fine. If you captured a desktop tutorial and you want to import another desktop tutorial, that is fine as well, but they cannot mix and match. So they are two different types of, you can think of it as file types. Okay. And that is the last of our features here, or gems, shall I say. Questions, Arlen?
We have a lot of really good questions. Kristen asked first, when you have that capture gray box that you can turn off, but if you want to leave it on, is there a way to change that color?
The gray box, no. You could change the highlight marker, which would be found in your settings here under theme. And you can scroll down, and that's where you can change that highlight color, but the gray would remain gray.
Thank you. And Daisy asked a question. Which of the features that you've shown today are free versus paid?
Manual capture and shortcuts and highlight capture box. These are all free features available to everyone. The type tool, info tool, quick nav, drag and drop, and scroll. Yes, those are all free features as well. The mask, pick a color, and mask overlay are not free. Those are paid features. And then the import tutorial is also a free feature.
Not bad, only 2 of them. And they were both in the same topic, the masking.
Yep.
One of the things I noticed as you were going, when you were mentioning the thing about tutorials in info and you were in your editor, even though I made something transparent, I could still see the box there. I wanted to make sure everyone knew that when you click transparent on an info step, that the users won't see the box, but you still will as a creator, so you know what's going on while you're editing.
Yes, thank you.
No problem.
So on that info step here, this you'll always see as the editor, but the learner won't see it. Right. And the other thing is that I didn't say also, was that this marker isn't just to tell the learner where to click or where to focus, but it's also to tell iorad, as far as like an algorithm. If you have a learner and this tutorial is in a smaller screen, then you will only be able to see a certain amount of the screenshot. So by putting this box, and even if it's transparent, where you kind of want it to focus, that's where iorad is going to focus that learner's eye.
Thank you. Kristen asked a question about drag and drop and accessibility. Is there any way for somebody who doesn't have mouse capabilities to use a keyboard for drag and drop?
That is a good question. I'm not sure. I have not tested that. I know you can use like tabbing and arrows throughout the player, like navigating left and right and changing modes, but I don't know on the drag and drop feature how that works.
Yeah, I'd like to look into that better too to answer your question. So what we're going to do is, because we're sending out a Q&A afterwards, that will be one of the Q&As, and we'll be able to put that answer in there. So make sure you look at the answers when you get this sent to you. Sean asked a question about scrolling. When your user is seeing the scrolling versus the creator, is the user actually doing a scroll motion, or are they just watching you scroll?
Is the learner, or is that what we're
Yes.
talking about? Yes,
Mhm.
the learner would actually, just like clicking and typing and hovering, they would actually have to scroll to make it advance to the next step.
And Laura asked, the drag and drop, you said sometimes you're going to have to do it manually, sometimes you can do it with a capture. Is there kind of a best practice for making sure that drag and drop gets captured correctly?
It's gonna depend on the application, honestly, how iorad kind of sees it being done. But as a general rule, best practice is always to go slow, never rush anything, have as minimal tabs open as possible to give iorad the memory and the capacity to capture as well as it can. And then just, yeah, going slow and making it really clear that you're dragging and dropping is the best thing that you can do.
Yeah, that's what I would have said too. I don't want to mispronounce the name because I know people butcher my name, but I want to say Lakin or Lakin. Teachers, when you share a tutorial, do your learners have to sign in order to see your tutorial?
So it depends on how you're sharing it.
Right. If you're a teacher and you want your students to see a tutorial, do they have to sign in to see it?
So as a general rule, no, they don't have to sign in to see it. If you have it set to in public, they wouldn't have to sign in. If you have it set to unlisted, they wouldn't have to sign in. Public, though, would be indexable by all search engines. And iorad does have a really good SEO score. So if you don't want the rest of the world to see your tutorial, I would recommend using the unlisted option, which is paid. Public is free. Embed only if you're embedding it into like a Google Classroom or Canvas, Schoology, something like that. Using the embed only option works well, and they would not have to log in for that either.
Thank you. Sherry asked where you clicked on import tutorial.
Oh, I showed her where that was.
Oh, okay, you already did?
Yeah, on another question.
Oh, okay. Okay. Did everybody catch that though? Real quick to show them which menu it's in.
Under advanced, right
Okay.
here.
Thank you. Can simulations be embedded in websites? I think you've addressed it, but just as a we're at 11:30. So if people have to go, you will get this all mailed to you, emailed to you because you signed up. All the questions and answers will be there too. So if you want to just get to the end, we will have all these Q&A. If you want to hang for another second just to get these questions answered, Lauren and I will hang, but you will have this sent to you. Thank you so much for being here.
Yes, thank you. And we do have an upcoming webinar, so you can mark your calendar on April 14th, and this will be focused on how to improve internal training. So employee training, internal to your organization. And then to answer the question about embedding it, you'll use the link and embed tab here. And then whether it accepts a URL, you can use one of these links, or you can use this HTML or embed code down here to embed it that way. We also have a bunch of integrations under publish too.
Okay, so I think we're gonna have to end now, and then the rest of the questions will come through our Q&A and the recording of this webinar.
Yep. Thank you all for coming, and we'll see you at the next webinar.